Welcome to part two of my conversation with Blue Moon Spirit and Blue Moon Spirit Crystal's Grace Star. This is the tail end of the first conversation, and then I found a second portion of it. So this is pretty piecemeal, and we'll stop in the middle and then we'll keep going, and everything ends abruptly. Not so much slick production values as you know me to have. So just come along for the ride. We talk about a lot of other different things like channeling, mediumship, guides, finding partners, creating your soul family. It's, I'm really happy with it and it's well worth the patience. And thanks for sticking with us. Hello, and welcome to Blue Lightning Healing Meditations. My name is Susie Parker Goins, and this is my podcast in which I talk about metaphysical topics that are catching my attention. You can find me on the web at bluelightninghealing.com. You can contact me at susie@bluelightninghealing.com. Please like, comment, subscribe, favorite, hit the support button, share with your friends, share the love. Thanks. So your website, tell me about it. What's on it?
I do sell stone jewelry. I sell stone candle holders, little wand holders, stone bowls. They're made of concrete and stone. I want to be doing some other projects like that. I love working with the stones. I just love the whole messy process. I also have a page of how to learn to read rocks, which is a lot of what I talked about here. I'm going to have sporadic blog posts. And then from the webpage, you can also go look at the Facebook and there'll be a couple of store sites and things like that. I'm still developing some of these things, but there's always tons of room to grow, exchange with groups. There is a Blue Moon Spirit group on Facebook, and I'll be getting that rolling with discounts, and people can exchange their comments, and I'll put special postings in there to enjoy.
Cool. And are you going to be doing in-person events over in Maine?
Yes, I have my first one. It'll be after your show post, but it's going to be July 3rd, and it's a local fair. Also, next weekend, this year it's a 2-day event, but normally 3 or 4 day event in Maine. And it's a big fair for local artists. And there's a lot of jewelers. So I'm going to go see my first one next weekend. There's a lot of places around here actually to participate. And I want to be doing that.
Cool. So if somebody listening is on the Eastern Seaboard, you can actually meet Grace in person, which is a joy. I must say, I enjoyed doing your in-person events here on the West Coast. Yeah, I miss them. They were so nice and chill, mostly. Only little individual dramas going on that I wasn't involved in. That made me happy. Are you going to be doing any online events, like hosting them or participating? Because I know you show up at Winnie's Angels when she does that.
Not right now.
Okay.
I think I need to grow more so someone can handle that work. It's too much work to do all of this stuff.
Right.
At the moment, I'm producing my work and then getting it listed online and interacting with the community, plus my own support communities to be part of our world. And that's pretty full.
Fair enough. Let's see. So the jewelry that's on your website, that's stuff that you've made, that you've put together.
Yes.
And the candle holders, I've got a lovely one that's got amethyst, a nice big amethyst chunk, and a desert rose and quartz on it. Those are the kind of candle holders you're talking about that you've put together?
Yes, if you got it from me, yeah, I like to use a large piece of stone, and then I'll use small stone accents, and they're generally with a concrete base.
Yeah.
And I've been making ones that hold votives, but I'm moving up to pillar size also.
Ooh.
Yes.
Sweet. Cool.
And I have some other things I want to get into I'm really excited about too, but they are not ready yet. There is a development time for these two. But, development time is where I make one and it falls apart, and then I make the second one and it had that, so little time.
It's a process. It's a process. And you have a book?
Yes, I do. I have one. It's on Amazon, Stone Friends, An Introduction to Stone Energies. You can get that on Amazon for, I believe it's $18. Stone Friends, An Introduction to Stone Energies. And the PDF is also on there. And also, you can go to my website, moonspirit.com, and I have the book for $1 as a PDF.
You said Blue Moon Spirit is the name, right? of your
Blue
website?
Moon Spirit, yes,
Blue
.com.
Moon Spirit. Okay, because I keep talking over you, so part of it cuts out. But I'll,
Because you love stones.
yeah. So I'll make sure I get your links in there, not only to your Amazon stuff, but certainly to the website. I don't know. Do you have any parting thoughts? Because I'm feeling pretty complete. Do you feel complete? Have you covered what you wanted to?
The one that's popping up is maybe starting stones, because when people are first starting their stone adventures, they kind of want to know what's a good stone to start with. So I have 5 or 6 that I suggest,
Awesome.
and I'll tell you what they are. First one is quartz. It is an energy intensifier, and also so you can hold it in your hand, hold your hand up and run light through your heart and out your hand with the quartz, and think of your intentions, and it will intensify your body energy and intensify the power of the intention that you are hoping to accomplish, whether it's a goal or a healing or some other purpose. Another one is rose quartz, and that's because it's this delicious pink and soothing, and it's about love. It's about opening your heart to the world so that you can become more of who you are. And when you do that, you are automatically giving more love to everything around you. I like citrine. It's a yellow quartz, sunshine energy. It's uplifting. It has an energy intensifier too, but the yellow quality of it is very uplifting. A lot of people use it for prosperity also. And you'll often find it in a cash register or something like that. If you have a little business, that's a good stone to put there. Green
I have,
aventurine.
hold on. On citrine, I have got one that's a very vivid yellow, and then I've got one that's kind of a muddy yellow. It's not muddy, but it's not as vivid. The heat treated thing, is that something to consider, or are we focused on the color of that?
Natural citrines are generally like the muddy color. They might be a smoky yellow or a smoky olive yellow. Then if they get heat treated, they'll become a brighter and brighter yellow. You can find brighter yellow natural ones, and they will be a little pricey, and you'll know that when you find them and buy them.
Does that affect the energy of them, the heat treating?
I keep wanting to say no to that very much, except for the mental thing in your head about it's been treated. But in the earth, they're being treated. That's how they get their color anyway. And we're just doing a man-made faster process than what is happening naturally in nature.
Okay.
And that would be for any form of treated stone.
Cool. So we did citrine. You were about to go into green aventurine, I believe.
Yeah, green aventurine, and again, that's another heart stone, another prosperity stone. It's about earth, and I love that green color for the eye brain stimulation. It's just a rich color. It keeps the world from being bland, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah,
There's so many properties that you can ascribe to it, and generally they also have a little sparkle in them, so you get that extra kick to your vision of it. People use black tourmaline for grounding. Grounding is where you take mentally, focus your energy and drive it deep into the earth to connect with the earth energy, and that keeps you also on the ground so that you're not racing around so much after imaginary things. You are more stable with how you're looking at the world and how you're operating in it.
So it helps with
focus, yes.
Okay.
And people use it for protection, which would also be the same thing. Protection, because if someone comes up to you and their energy is all over the place, or they're making a move on you with their energy, if you're more stable and grounded in your own energy, their presence becomes intrusive and you recognize it more definitely, so that you're not as vulnerable to that person's projections because you are more aware of who you are. That's how I perceive its protection, and there is a million ways to perceive it. The other stone would be the jasper. Jaspers have earth energy, and holding a jasper, the polished ones particularly, they're smooth, they're usually cool to the touch. To me, it's very much like a hug from Mother Nature. The calmness, it's kind of like you can let the stuff slide off because Mother Nature's there with you. Those are the types of stones I like to suggest for people starting their adventures.
Cool. And just remaining open to the energy and programming the stone. I don't know if did we talk about that process real fast? I know I said final thoughts, but
That's
it's
okay.
it's like talking to my sister. I say, yeah, I got to go. And we talk another 20 minutes. So, it's entirely possible. But programming the stone, it sounds like something a beginner could try.
Okay, take the stone in your hand or on the table in front of you, and you're going to talk to it like your friend. It is your friend. If you can talk with stones, They're very simple compared to our thinking. They see a dog, it's a dog. It's not a dog with a mean parent and a dog who won't stay on the leash and a dog and this and that. It's a dog.
Okay.
That's kind of how they think. You can talk to it. It's your friend. Say, I would like you to help me with this. And I so appreciate your energy. And I will let you do it however you think best. And just say thank you. And you let it be. And then if you set it in your environment, you have set your intention. You've asked the stone for help. And you've got the visual, you've got a subconscious because it's there on your mind. You're generating the energy to accomplish your goal, and the stone is helping.
I like that. Talk about how I start with affirmations and I get so spun up around the axle about, oh, I got to make sure it covers everything, but keeping it simple. I like that. The stones are simple. This is what I want. Thank you very much. And then releasing that, the journey, the expectation over how that journey happens, that can be a challenge for folks like who want to micromanage what their rocks are doing, but just to say it's going to happen. Divine alignment is a really good phrase for me. This needs to happen, and
Yeah.
I would, whatever happens that's in divine alignment, I'm good with.
Yes.
And to let go of those expectations of, and because it feels really the energy when you say, oh, but it needs to be this and this, and all the energy gets all constricted and it doesn't allow to flow. Like with the aquamarine, the energy, the water flows around. So if we're able to release it, the expectations, or that doing, what do they call it, a minute by minute for big events, I need this and this and
Of
this and
course,
this.
yes.
Yeah.
And it's like you ask and say thank you, and it's done. And then you're allowing it to happen. If you are checking on it, you're like putting chocks on the brakes all the way through. You're jamming it up constantly instead of allowing the energy to flow.
Yeah.
The more
Yeah.
you interfere, the more interference you generate.
Cool. It's going to make it bumpier. And then that just spirals off into its own little drama that we don't need.
Yeah.
Cool, cool. Thank you so very much, Grace, for joining me today. I love our talks. This has just been so very cool. And
Susie, thank you. You're
yay.
wonderful. I love that you're doing this. You're doing such a great service for people. It's
Thanks.
wonderful.
I have good people around me, even though you're on the other side of the country, but you're still good people, and I love what you do. And you've taught me a lot in so many different ways. So of course I'm going to share your light with folks too. I know.
That's so funny because I consider you way ahead of me in so many ways.
Oh, no, no.
You
No, no. I'm not dragging you along on anything. You're right there with me. It's one of those things. It's like, just walk with me so we can get lost
complimentary.
together. Don't let me lead. I'll get us lost. Don't follow me. What is it? I don't know what
Well,
it
let me
is.
leave. I'll get lost. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's just get lost together. I'll lead. We'll get lost. You lead. I'll get lost. Yeah. Okay. We're good.
Okay. You take care. Have a great day getting lost.
Yay. Yay.
Which
And
is
we'll be able to find you at bluemoonspirit.com, and you'll have those things. And yeah, so yay. I'm looking forward. Maybe there's someday I'll go, I need to go to Maine today.
you. Yes. I had a snapping turtle lay her eggs in my yard last week. So
Oh,
that's cool. Yeah. So I've marked it. And when it's time for them little guys to hatch, I'll go carefully move them over to the water.
how cool. We have raccoons climbing from one tree into an abandoned house by us. That's the kind of nature I'm getting right now.
Oh, they're cool. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you very much for joining me. You can find Grace at bluemoonspirit.com. She is a rock goddess, I think, a stone goddess. I may put it in the description that we're stoners and rock and rollers. I don't know. We'll see how that works out. I probably will, just to watch somebody twitch, because that's fun. So thanks again. It was at this point that I had turned off the recording, and then we started talking again, and Grace talked about mediumship. So I'm going to add that part of this conversation here. Spoiler alert, it's going to end abruptly. Thanks for sticking with us. Okay. So, we're just talking about healing, and you said Gaia came to talk to you.
Yes.
Let's take it from
Yeah.
there.
I was in the kitchen a couple of weeks ago, like real important stuff. And all of a sudden she starts talking to me. And I thought she was just an earth's energy kind of thing. But she is talking to me. She's not an earth energy, she's an entity. And I know you channel her all the time, but that was the first time I met her. And of course, it was words of wisdom and so relevant. And it opened a lot of windows of perception to me, just the few things she said. It's
Yeah.
always such an honor when that happens at all in any form.
Yeah, she's very cool. She is, yeah, I call her the ultimate Earth Mother, along with Mother Mary, who is another, big image in the mom
She yelled at me
continuum.
once. If I didn't know that could happen, I would have thought I was hallucinating.
Mother Mary
She
yelled at
yelled at
you?
me at 5 a.m. and I was in my living room and she says, "You better get busy." I went, "Wow." I jumped because it was so loud. And geez, somebody else heard someone in our mediumship group had the same experience.
How fun. I like it that guides just I encourage everybody to develop your relationship. But sometimes my relationship with them has been, okay, quit. Quit being poopy or, quit feeling sorry for yourself. It's time to get a move on and do this. Because, Gaia, she's always willing to give you whatever tools you need to move forward. So I've got this client, and the client works with angels, and Gaia said, "Here are these two angels." And she said, "Really? I've never heard of them." And Gaia said, "That's because I just made them up for you, because this is what you need in the moment." The guides always want to work. It's just, what is it going to take to get you to take that step? It's, I'm not going to
You can,
say it.
yeah.
I'm,
Thoughts are energy. If you
uh-huh.
think something, you have created that form. I know early on in my healing, I my parents, my home was very dysfunctional. My parents had very, were very limited and very wounded, and trying to recover from what was terrible for me because it was terrible lessons for me to get past. Um, I created the kind of parents I wanted because the ones I had, I don't miss, and I'm not going to pretend to. They
Yeah.
are who they are. I accept they had their things to do, but for healing purposes, I needed love and support. And so I have Ariana, who's my mother, and we laugh and dance and sing, and she praises me, and we have fun and do silly things, and she just loves everything I do. And it was so healing to create this and like take my little inner child in back with her, and we go play. And even now she's here to help me. She
How,
exists. And I
how
painted a picture
cool.
of her. And I painted I had Matthew as my father. I believe a psychic introduced me to him, and he'd been my father before. I did a painting of him, and another friend came over and saw that painting and wanted it. She bought it right there. And I don't know that I was ready to let go of it, but when she latched on, sometimes it's time. But and he was kind and tolerant and supportive and non-critical, and there were qualities that were huge to help me give the same thing to myself.
How very cool. Because once my mom crossed over, oh golly, I was 13. So we're talking, I don't know, 37 years ago, almost 40 years ago. Yeah. I had one experience with her when I was up in, we had moved up here from Texas. So that's over 20 years ago. We got here in 96. And my baby son and I were hanging out, doing our thing. And I saw my mom in the chair in our rocker. And she looked at me and she said, "Everything's going to be okay." And I haven't heard from her ever since. But then when my dad crossed over, he transitioned. Yeah, he's over there saying, "You don't know when I did." It's like, "Dad, yeah, it's okay." We argued for the first few, at least the year after he transitioned, and I sorted out a whole bunch of stuff with him then, because he was actually at a place where he would stop and listen. The last few years of his this earthbound life, he had dementia, and he didn't remember that mom had died, and he didn't remember who his family was. Once he looked at my younger sister, who has played a big role in the caretaking for him, and he said, I don't remember who you are, but I feel like there's a lot of anger there. Whatever I did, I am sorry. And that
Mm.
was his dementia that stripped away a whole bunch of stuff. True, he remembered every 5 o'clock in the afternoon he needed to have his whiskey, and he remembered that. But once he transitioned, it took a couple of years for me to go to for us to get to that equilibrium, that space where our relationship was healed. Because once I moved out, once
Yeah.
that was it. Um, and then most recently, my father-in-law passed over, and I still have problems with that. But he's not talking to me right now.
Hmm.
I've
My
encountered that with other people's parents or grandparents. They'll like, turn their back on me and just go, poof. It's just like,
Well, when they cross over, they're not necessarily advancing in their own spirit.
right.
And they may be the same person there that they were here. And I do find that's very true a lot of times, especially in readings, because they haven't really moved away and
Yeah.
moved. And that's fine. That is what it is.
Yeah.
You
I,
know,
w- I drive along the river road. When I first opened up to mediumship, I drove along there and there was a whole bunch of souls there. And so it's like, you guys want to go? You can go. You don't have to be bound here. So it was fine. But they were still caught up in that I'm still here. What happened? The whole lot of confusion. It's like, what is going on here? How can you see me? Nobody else has. It's like, well, no, here's my friend. And I'd bring in a guide like Archangel Michael or Mother Mary, whoever they needed, helped them return to the light. So it's a lot clearer there.
yeah. I have a cemetery here I walk in. It's right at the end of my little road. I love it, and I walk down there in
Oh,
the morning sunshine and I go, "Hi guys, how you doing today?" And I get the biggest little chill, it's just nice.
I live close to the cemetery that's got Rucker's tomb in it. I have never been in it, never
Oh,
walked it. And
oh,
I understand there's all kinds of stuff going on in there. It's like, I don't know. I don't know. Could it
oh.
be I'm really sensitive or a chicken? I don't know. We'll
I
find
had a
out.
really wild experience. So my father was, I think he was mentally ill, but he was an alcoholic, and you just never know what was coming through the door. So it was not a good experience.
Right.
Well, I went to a workshop, and there was a famous medium there. I don't want to give names because this wouldn't be the proper place. Anyway, he says, "Okay, I'm seeing a guy putting pills on a shelf. And anybody relate to that? And three of us raised our hand, and I raised mine, and he goes, "Well, I'm going to Grace." And I went, "Oh boy, have fun with that."
Yay, me.
Those readings are nice and sweet. He says, "Well," he says, he talked about the difficulties. He mentions psychological problems. He says, and he took drugs. Did you know that? And I didn't know he was doing drugs on top of his others, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
When a person is mentally ill, they lose the ability to control every aspect of their life.
Right.
They are just, it's like a week back, a week's brain. Anyway, so he says, well, he's here now. And I had broken my ankle that when I went over to this workshop, and I had just gotten out of the hospital and I was there and I hadn't felt any pain. I didn't feel it when I broke it. I didn't feel it after the surgery. I'm at the
Oh,
workshop with no pain. He
okay.
says,
So this has been recently, like since before you
yeah, it was
moved. It was
last
that
20 years
ankle?
ago.
Okay.
And he said, well, that is your father here. And I wanted to let you know he's holding 3 lights. He wants to help you now. And he took away your pain. And it was, and I went,
Wow.
whoa, because psychics would not, the angels and guides would not allow psychics to bring him forward before because he was still in the dark. And
I,
that,
yeah.
that was
I,
just that was too strange for words.
yeah. I've got a brother who passed. He was 47 and it was an aneurysm. And he had one of those lives that was mental illness and addiction left and right. And I had talked to that same psychic who talked to me about, the stones that I had. And she said he was just definitely in this sort of oubliette, this self-imposed oubliette. And then so I kept sending him love, doing Reiki, whatever. It's like, yeah, Chris, I love you and I want you to heal and all that. And then when Joey, my oldest, was born, we were still in Dallas, so he was just a couple of months old. And Joey would just shoot straight out. His arms and legs would just shoot straight out, and he had this look on his face. And I heard very distinctly, it's like, I'm sorry, I'm not there to take him camping. And I could feel very much my brother's energy there. So it's
Oh,
nice to know that over that time he's had a chance to heal a lot more over there. And he talks to my younger sister all the damn time, just to the point like my grandmother, my maternal grandmother talks to Lucy all the time. And I'm like, well, hey, what about me? And they're all like, no, you're okay. She needs the help. And I'm like, oh man, at least tell me how to make those no bake cookies, Mommy Pat. And she's like, no, because you'll eat them all and you can't have all that sugar. I'm like, okay, fine. But it's fascinating to see that the growth that even after you cross over, even after a soul leaves the body, that there's still growth to happen. I think it's presumptuous to assume, bing, I'm dead, bling, I got my wings. It's like, no, it doesn't work that way.
oh, I don't. I think a soul determines its own path, whether they stay or they stay in their same circle for several lifetimes,
Yeah,
or whether they came here as a part of changing. So when they do leave, they change.
yeah.
Um, it's is
I
much
feel that.
bigger than that because we're only human and we try to understand it from the human side.
Oh, yeah, that just gets us all kinds of mucked up. Yeah, I know my mom was there to set a precedent for me to heal. There's that DNA healing that I set out to do when I had my cancer experience, my mother and my sister. It's like, okay, fine. So we know I don't do things by halves. And so that was a big deal.
Mm,
So, okay. Okay,
you do that.
cool. Yeah, that's going to
So
be bonus material somewhere, I know. I'm going to
I,
stop the
I
recording.
used to talk to my guide. Well, when I first was developing my conscious psychic skills, I did talk to my guides, and I was struggling with some issues, uh, and like I wanted an answer to one thing, and I kept asking for this answer, and they were giving me the same thing, which was there is not an answer right now, but they were saying it in their way,
Yeah.
and I was demanding it anyway, and they finally just said, "We can't talk to you right now," and they shut up.
Yeah.
And that itself was a huge lesson.
Yeah. I've got a friend. When I was working at my storefront for a bit at the brick and mortar I had, my friend, my business partner came in and she says, I broke my guide. What do I do? And it was the same thing. She had this dragon who would go out and do things, and finally it was just he the dragon wasn't able to help her. And so when I channeled him for him, he said, yeah, you're not doing what we asked you to,
Mm,
and you're not allowing it to happen. And so that's a big joke I make around, though. It's like, yeah, that's one of my classes is I broke my guide. Now what?
oh yeah, oh very fun. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because sometimes the answer is no, and or not right now, or it's not the time. And when folks, I I really don't like answering when am I going to find the one questions at these events, because I invariably the guides will say, well, how's your relationship with yourself first? Do you
that
love
that
yourself?
that's the question. That's what
Yeah.
that is what they're asking.
And I've encountered people who have said, who won't listen to that. They want to know. And then I've been given the instructions like, well, there's all kinds of divine alignment to happen. This person, I actually felt like I was a life partner GPS for another client. It's like, well, he's over here, and I really can't check that because that's his energy. He's on his path. But, ultimately he showed up and everything's great and fine and dandy, and they have their own spiritual business and blah, blah, blah. But it was like, I, you know, how do you feel about yourself first, and divine alignment? And I do give that disclaimer. I'm not going to tell you what corner to stand on, what time of day with the flower in your lapel, and that one will walk by. I'm not going to do that because there's too many variables involved.
Uh-huh.
First and foremost, how do you feel about yourself? And that seems to be a really big obstacle for a lot of folks.
Yeah, they're other oriented, and it's about wanting love and needing love and not knowing how to give it to yourself, usually something
Yeah.
variation of that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. Cool. Thanks
That's
for
a
the
good one.
bonus. That's awesome.
Okay, cool. Well, I enjoy talking to you. I love the spirits.
And that's where the conversation ended. Well, not ended, but that's where I stopped recording. All I can say is that Grace is a fabulous person and she has amazing viewpoints and experience. Check out her website at bluemoonspirit.com, or you can reach her at bluemoonspiritcrystals@gmail.com.